How's it going, Super Friends? Welcome back to my channel, and today I've got another vintage Superpowers action figure mint on card to open for you today. This time it's the Wave 3 Mr. Freeze. Man, can you believe this guy only costed $3.97 back in the day at Toys R Us? If I only had a time machine. Now, because Mr. Freeze here is a Wave 3 figure, he does tend to be quite difficult to find mint on card. And unfortunately, when you do find him, he's usually loose on eBay, missing his helmet, and or suffering from plastic yellowing on his legs. Maybe his strings that are hoses are just frayed or missing altogether. And sometimes, whether by ignorance or done purposefully, I find people that are selling the Toy Biz version of Mr. Freeze in place of the Superpowers. Like, it's listed as the Superpowers version, but it's not, which I think is actually just the quality of a licensed knockoff. Now let's just peel off this sticker to make for the better picture. All right, old crusty price tag. You gonna come off without a fight? You gonna, nope. Poo-poo on a stick. Well, looks like it's staying. Now, of course, you've got the instantly recognizable artwork by Jose Garcia Lopez. And here, behind the price tag, it actually says Power Action Cold Blast Punch and Pulsing Freeze Guns. As you can see here, the bubble is, as of yet, uncut, unpunched, never off the card ever. There is just a little bit of crushing happening right here. It got mashed a little bit, but in general, this is not bad. The card's also just a little bit bent, and there does seem to be some signs of mildew right here in the top corner. It might not be showing up. The back of the Mr. Freeze has all the other figures that were released in the series. His Mr. Freeze, the Frozen Felon bio. You could pause to read it if you'd like to. The instructions on how to squeeze his legs together to activate his Power Action Cold Blast Punch. And also other vehicles that may or may not have been released during the time of the Superpowers collection. Alright, that's enough jibba jabba. Let's surgically remove him. Gotta be careful, don't cut the figure. And also be careful, don't cut my fingers off. Alright, come on out, Mr. Freeze. And you will note that there's absolutely no comic in this action figure package at all, and that's because the Wave 3 figures didn't actually come with a comic. And here we see him finally all out of the package. This fine specimen of an action figure before us is the fantastic Superpowers collection Mr. Freeze. The sculpted detail on this Mr. Freeze, and really the rest of the Kenner Superpowers collection as well, had so much attention paid to detail that this figure is really, a shining example of why the Superpowers collection is such an unparalleled example of what a toy maker can do when actually putting their mind to it. There's so much fine detail sculpted into Mr. Freeze's arms, torso, back, his legs. There's so much sculpted detail there. And I think it's really cool that they decided to make his hoses out of a string. You can kind of pull it through right there, but I love the fact they actually used a string instead of just like a rubber hose. They just kind of plugged into his legs on each boot. Mr. Freeze's helmet is really neat as well because it's actually got a slightly purplish tone to it by the looks of it to match his shoulder pads here and his gloves. The helmet itself just clips on with these little tabs right here on the top, and they go into the holes like that. And Mr. Freeze's face actually looks pretty accurate to the contemporary Mr. Freeze of the day, who actually wore this blue and white heavy suit. And boy oh boy is this face ever painted like a bazillion times better than the Toy Biz version. Yeah, just so you know, don't be fooled by the Toy Biz version either. For one, the face sculpt is painted better. This version does not have the ugly rivets in the knees, and it does have the strings that attach to the body. This one does not have the color change feature when you get it wet, whereas this one has that fantastic Power Action Punch. Man, there's nothing like squeezing him for the first time and hearing the gears in motion. And the Toy Biz version, right here, right in the middle, is actually left blue, whereas with the original, the Kenner Superpowers, the whole way across, it's painted white. Not to mention the fact that the arms and the legs of the Toy Biz version are really skishy and spongy, and these are nothing like that. They're definitely of a better quality plastic. Something else kind of cool, and also that differentiates it from the inferior Toy Biz version, is that when you use Mr. Freeze's Power Action Punch, his little guns right here actually move as well. So it's like a double power action feature. Just what a fantastic figure, really. Now, hopefully you don't mind chilling out with me for just a little bit longer because it's comparison time. The first of which Here is the Mattel Justice League Action version. And the Mattel, ooh, wow, that doesn't fit. Hang on. That's better. As I was saying, the Justice League Action on this side and the Batman Missions on the other. And you'll see over the course of the comparisons here that Mr. Freeze's suit has been interpreted many ways over the years. For example, both of these guys have goggles and a dome over their head. Whereas this one has a dome, although it's a bit more complicated than just a simple bowl, and he has no goggles. Here we have two more Mattel versions. On the left, it's the Total Heroes, and on the right, it's that classic, big, beefy Schwarzenegger-like sculpt that they've used a bazillion times. Only with this one, it was definitely influenced by the Superpowers version as far as the paint scheme goes. And then finally, on the left-hand side, we have Greg Capullo's take on Mr. Freeze, and also on the right, a basic DC Direct Secret Files version. Being honest, this is probably my favorite look for Mr. Freeze. I love that. It looks so 50s science fiction. Basically, I think that this is one of the coolest action figures ever made, definitely one of the coolest of Mr. Freeze, and one that was on my radar for a long time. As a kid, like probably a lot of us, I remember having to settle for the Toy Biz version because I missed out on the original, and the Toy Biz was the only one on the market at the time, and we didn't have eBay, so I couldn't just go looking for one. But alas, I'm not complaining. I'm definitely very happy to have him, and super stoked that I get to add him to my collection. Anyway, super friends, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to pop around today and enjoy this video that I made for you. If you did enjoy it, please take the time to leave a like on it. Any comments, you know where they go. If you're new here, feel free to subscribe to the channel, because if you do, you shall become a super friend and join the DC squad. And I'll see you in the next one. Have a very DC day, everybody. Take care.